Carl Froch says the reason Andre Ward retired was because of Dmitry Bivol. Welcome back to Keep It Real Boxing. This is Cypherpox. Let's get into this one. Okay. You know what, Carl Froch, like, I don't know what to say about Carl Froch sometimes. You know, I like Carl Froch. I've enjoyed watching his career, and you know, for someone with a boxer with, which I say more of a fighter with limited boxing skills and limited capabilities in terms of his skill sets in the ring, you know, he's achieved a lot. You know, he's achieved a lot of success, and he's done pretty well. You know, most fighters who have his kind of style of fighting don't do too well, especially British boxers. But his comment recently in BoxingScene.com, I read it, and he's talking about he's a big fan of Dmitry Bivol, the WBA champion, light heavyweight champion, sorry. And he's really impressed by him. You know, he says that, you know, he did reference Sergey Kovalev as well in that article, where he says, you know, you'll see how good Bivol is when he faces Sergey Kovalev, and he believes that that's the reason Andre Ward retired, was because Andre Ward was basically ducked Dmitry Bivol. Now let's talk about that for starters. Andre Ward's reasons for retiring were, you know, basically he's starting to get old. You know, his body can't take the rigorous training regimens. His body can't take the physical requirements needed for training, not just training, but for actually fighting in the ring. And there's probably a little bit of a, you know, he's achieved a lot in boxing. You know, undefeated, unified champion at super middleweight, won the Super 6, beat Carl Froch as well, let's not forget, in that tournament, in the final of that tournament. Moved up, you know, had a few injury problems, promotional issues, came back, moved up to light heavyweight, and, you know, beat the best man at light heavyweight, the best fighter, the best boxer at that time in Sergey Kovalev, not once but twice. Now, and then on the back of that, Andre Ward decided after his second fight with, you know, there were rumours of him fighting at cruiserweight against Tony Bellew, maybe potentially on, you know, Adonis Stevenson. You know, even, you know, he put, you know, they weren't counting out one day, not now, but one day maybe moving up to a heavyweight and taking on Anthony Joshua. How serious they were all about that. So there was a lot of talk about a lot of fights, and nothing really materialised. And, you know, in the end, Andre Ward just decided that, you know, actually, to be honest with you, I'm done with boxing. I've done everything I wanted to do. I've achieved everything I wanted to do. Become a gold medalist. I've picked up world titles, you know, etc. You know, and I've made enough money, and it's time to retire now and hang him up. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. You know, he's had a great career, and why not? You know, I know people like to hate on Andre Ward and pick his career, try and pick his career apart, but let's face it, at super middleweight, he fought pretty much everyone near enough in their prime. He fought everyone, he did not near enough, he did fight everyone in their prime. He fought all his best fighters in and around him at that time, and he beat them. And, you know, he went up to light heavyweight and beats the #1 light heavyweight in the world at that time, Sergey Kovalev, and one of the pound for pound best in a lot of people's eyes. And, you know, Carl Froch is, you know, his comments, in my opinion, are just ridiculous. You know, end of the day, Dmitry Bivol is a really good light heavyweight. We still got to see what he can do. Yeah, he's picked up a world title recently, but we will see going forward what he's capable of against the likes of Sergey Kovalev. You know, there's Arthur Beterbiev, Adonis Stevenson, Badou Jack. Who else am I missing? You know, there's other names in the light heavyweight division. It is looking good right now, looking very exciting at light heavyweight, let's be honest. But Carl Froch needs to let it go, man. You know, Carl Froch has this bitterness towards Andre Ward since he lost to Andre Ward in the Super 6 tournament. Yeah, when he lost in the final to Andre Ward, and it wasn't just like, you know, a close fight loss or anything like that. He was schooled by Andre Ward. Absolutely schooled by Andre Ward. Dominated for 12 rounds, you know. So, you know, Carl Froch in that fight did very little. He tried, but he did very little. You know, and he ended up going the distance. He didn't quit or anything like that. You know, Carl Froch is not that kind of fighter. But he's always been bitter about it since then. Ever since then, he's always tried to discredit everything Andre Ward does. You know, this isn't about Dmitry Bivol, or if he honestly believes how that Bivol's that good, that he can beat Sergey Kovalev, that he can beat Andre Ward, etc. This is Carl Froch just being a bitter man, because he can't get over the fact that he lost to Andre Ward, and in the style and fashion he did so. A few months ago, I can't remember what channel it was it Fight Hype, where he did an interview. Well, he had a few reporters around him, you know, YouTube channelists, media, etc. Can't remember what fight was it. It might be the Mayweather-McGregor thing. But anyway, he was standing there and people were asking about Andre Ward, and I believe Andre Ward had just announced his retirement, or he just beat Kovalev or whatever it was, and he turned around and said he felt, you know, Andre Ward is boring, his style is boring, you know, who wants to watch Andre Ward doesn't sell, etc., all this sort of stuff. And one of the reporters says, you know, who wants to watch him, you know, and one of the reporters, I think, turned around and said he wanted to watch him. He goes, I like watching him, you know, I think he's a really great fight. He goes, you really think that's good boxing? You call that boxing? He said, yeah, why not? And he goes, well, anyone who calls that boxing doesn't know what boxing is. You know, any opportunity, and you know, one of the reporters started giving it back a little bit to Carl Froch, and Carl Froch turned around and said, you know, what are you, an Andre Ward arse licker? And you can see it in his face, you know. Carl Froch is one of these people who cannot hide his emotions. You know, he doesn't have a poker face, and you can see the hatred in his face for Andre Ward, and it is hatred. You know, he's so bitter about that loss to Andre Ward back then at super middleweight, when he was actively fighting in the Super 6 tournament. And you know, that's what this is all about. Any opportunity Carl Froch can get to try and discredit Andre Ward's career and try to knock his achievements, he will take it. I've never really seen Andre Ward ever really say anything particularly bad about Carl Froch. It's not really his style. The only thing I've ever heard, I've seen an interview of where Andre Ward's probably hit back a little bit, is when Carl Froch, as usually, he usually said he's boring, he doesn't sell, who wants to watch him, you know, his style's not great. And Andre Ward turned around and said, I think it was with the Behind the Gloves team, and he turned around and said, Andre Ward turned around and said, well, if my style's all of that, everything that he says it is, meaning Carl Froch, then what does that say about Carl Froch? Because I beat and dominated Carl Froch in our fight, did I not? Which is a good point. So when you're discrediting someone like Andre Ward, a former opponent who did what he did against you, you're making yourself look even worse, as in terms of you're also discrediting your own career, yeah, and your own accomplishments and your own abilities in the ring. You know, I've seen it in, you know, and this ain't a British-US thing or anything like that. I've seen British fans in comment sections of those videos where Carl Froch has behaved this way towards Andre Ward, and they're saying, oh, you know, Carl needs to get over it, he got beat fair and square, etc. You know, Carl was, you know, overrated and stuff like that. So, do you know what I mean? And that's not just US fans, that's British fans saying that about Carl Froch. You know, a lot of people out there believe, you know, he is so bitter. Yeah, and he just needs to get over it, and that's all this is about, is that he is still bitter. He had an opportunity to fight Andre Ward again, to avenge his loss, but he kept making, you know, demands. Oh, I'm not going to fight in the US because that's home turf for Andre Ward. It needs to be here in Nottingham or here in Wembley. And, you know, Andre Ward was like, you know what, when we fought the first time I didn't have home advantage. Yeah, I fought in America, but that wasn't my hometown crowd. So, you know, there was a lot of this and that, and I think money maybe being involved in it and all that sort of stuff you usually get. And in the end, Carl Froch, you know, and Andre Ward 2 never happened. But I honestly wonder whether that was Carl Froch just trying to stay face and trying to make it out like he wanted to fight Andre Ward, and make it out like maybe Andre Ward's a bit scared to fight him in the UK, and, you know, that kind of way of, you know, manipulating the fan base, you know, a little bit like we see a lot with a lot of promoters, fighters, and obviously promotional companies and managers, etc. But, you know, he had his opportunity. He could have had a rematch, but you didn't take it. Why didn't you take the rematch? Why didn't you make that fight? Why didn't you take that option? Because I think deep down Carl Froch knows he would have lost again. He wouldn't have beaten Andre Ward. There's something about Andre Ward. Sometimes fighters know there's a certain something about one of their opponents or their rivals that they know I'm just never going to beat this guy. This guy's got my number. And I think Carl Froch, when he was active, believed that about Andre Ward, and that's why the rematch probably never happened. But that's just my opinion, of course. You know, I'm not saying you guys need to agree with it, but I think Carl Froch needs to stop all of this, because it's just getting ridiculous now. You know, it's getting quite embarrassing every time he does this. You know, when something in the light heavyweight division, or in a certain fight, or a division where Andre Ward fought, you know, and there's current fighters and etc. and stuff like that, or you know, when Andre Ward was active and when he would have a fight, or he had a fight, up and coming fight, Andre Ward will always do. Carl Froch will always do or say something to try and discredit Andre Ward's achievements and his success he's had in the ring. But that's just my take on it. You know, look, actually, before I sign off, let's look at it this way, yeah? Why did Carl Froch retire? Why did Carl Froch retire? Carl Froch retired, he gave the same reasons that Andre Ward did. I can't get up for fights, you know, I'm not motivated to train, etc. and all that sort of stuff. And if I can't do all that, I might as well retire, right? Yeah, he couldn't get up for fights, or he wanted big fights, you know, the kind that, you know, emulated what happened at Wembley with George Groves too. He wanted that kind of attention and stuff. Developed a bit of an ego after that fight, and there's no doubt about that. But not be funny, yeah. There was and he's saying that Andre Ward now retired because of Bivol. Well, then I could turn around and say, well, Carl Froch retired because he was ducking James DeGale. Yeah, James DeGale was the mandatory challenger to Carl Froch's IBF belt at that time, and James DeGale kept calling him out, kept trying to make that fight, kept saying, come on, let's do this, let's get in a ring, you know, etc, etc. And even to the point where he started calling Carl Froch a coward. You know, the same with Triple G, you know, rivalry with Triple G, you know, he does the same thing with Triple G as he's doing with Andre Ward. So, and you know, Triple G was like, you're all talk, you know, get in the ring, let's do it. And you know, Carl Froch kept saying, oh, I'm too big for you, and all this sort of, started making reasons as to why he didn't want to, why that fight with, or a catchweight fight with a Triple G wouldn't happen either. So does that mean Carl Froch's real reasons for retiring was because he was ducking and avoiding James DeGale and Triple G? You know, maybe that is the reason. He didn't want to fight those guys because he didn't believe he could beat them. He knew they would beat him. Exactly, yeah? So what you're saying about, you're criticising Andre Ward about, which I don't believe is true in it, to be honest with you, you've done yourself. You've actually done yourself. So should we then believe that the reason you retired was because you were scared of James DeGale and Triple G, not because you lost motivation for the sport and the passion to get up and train and stuff like that? Anyway, look, I'll leave the rest to you guys. You lot can decide what you think of this one. I will link the article in the description of the video as always, but that's just my opinion on that one. As always guys, like, share and subscribe. Until next time, this is Cypherbox reminding you to keep it real.